Big news, flexible furlough. In this video, I run you through all the things that matter to you, the small business owner. So the Chancellor announced some rather big news on the 29th of May on a Friday afternoon, as they often do when everybody's hoping to wind down for a nice peaceful weekend. Instead, us geeks get to read HMRC guidance all weekend. So I very much had a fun time at the weekend doing that and recording this video for you all. So flexible furlough has been announced. Now that's quite exciting for a lot of people. I think one of the problems with the furlough scheme was, especially for limited company directors that were furloughing themselves, is that unfortunately you had to do no work aside from your statutory duties as a director while this was occurring. And obviously for staff it was frustrating. I talked about it a lot in previous videos and things with construction, and particularly if you imagine if you had some staff that you were an electrical company and you had some staff on your books, you needed to make the decision of whether to furlough them for 3 weeks, not knowing if you're going to have emergency call outs and the like. At least now you have the opportunity potentially to flex them up to work a little bit of time. So one thing that is really going to be critical is to see the HMRC guidance. Now it's a bit odd in that they're releasing the guidance on the 12th of June. That's the expected date. So us geeks will be all over that, looking at what you can and can't do and how all this flexible furlough's worked out. But unfortunately, one of the things that's quite evident from this is the 10th of June is quite a big date, because your employees had to be furloughed, or at least you can't add any new employees to the furlough scheme from the 10th of June. So we sort of have to wait to the 12th for the actual details. And at the minute, we only know most of the outline of it, but you've got till the 10th to really make a decision on adding new people to furlough. So bear that in mind with everything, because I think that's an easy date that's going to get missed in the detail of things, because it all sounds amazing until you work that back and work out that the 10th is quite a big date for everybody. So for now, what's going to happen is there's a staggered system. So it's going to go part-time from the 1st of July. So you can bring people back from the 1st of July on a part-time basis and still claim some furlough money. Now that employee is still going to be entitled to 80% of their earnings, or usual capped at $2,500 a month, as it has been already. And of course, if they are actually doing work for the company, the employer would be expected to pay that part of the cost. And that makes complete sense, doesn't it? If you're getting a benefit for them working for the company, of course, you'd expect to pay for it as you would normally. And all as before, HMRC are going to pay your employment costs. If you do have to pay employers' NI or pension contributions, that's all going to be funded by the government in this ridiculously good scheme on that front. So that's really, really good. Where it starts to change is when we go into the next month. When we hit August, it starts to get a little bit worse, because employers won't be able to claim pension costs that we just mentioned, and the employer's NI, that's the contribution that you as an employer would pay on the employees. Now, if you're a director, it's quite often the case that you probably won't have that problem anyway. And for a lot of small employers who only have people that earn, say, I don't know, under 10 grand a year, you're going to be in a position where not much has changed. So it's another month. Same deal, employees 80%. And then we move into September. Now, September is where it all starts to change. And the reason it starts to change is because now, whilst the employee still gets the same amounts, if they're furloughed, they're still going to get their 80% capped at $2,500 a month. The government grant to the employer, the bit the HMRC are paying, is now going to be capped. And it's going to be capped at 70%. So you get 70% and the employer pays 10% while they're furloughed. So I think realistically, if you imagine, if by then you are really struggling to bring your people back, I think now is where there's going to be a big decision to be made about redundancies, because you're actually having to reach quite deep into your pockets at that stage to now pay for employees. So I know TV personality Martin Lewis, for example, encouraged a lot of people to come back, and employers to take people back on to furlough them to make sure they get paid, and that was cool. But I think anybody who's in that situation now will start to see themselves, unfortunately, not being carried on, because it's going to start costing employers quite a bit of money to do this. But if you were legitimately doing it and you love your team and everything else, paying 10% to keep them around isn't the end of the world, because how much will it cost you to re-recruit when you need them again? So it's still a good scheme, but it will start to cost at that point. And again, the government grant's capped. So rather than 2,500, although that's the cap for the employee, as an employer, it's more like 2,187.50 roughly. And then from October, again, you're looking at having it slanted downwards again. So the employer is now going to pay 20% and HMRC are only going to pay 60%. So it's going to get to a point again where it's costing you more. But again, you've got to probably look at that in the wider scope of, is it worth me paying this just to keep these people on my books and keep them happy when it might cost me more to actually go out and re-recruit them when I need them if it's just about to pick up. So it's got some quite interesting decisions ahead, I think. Now, and that's from the employer's side. So what we don't know, if you're a limited company director, is we want to see a little bit more detail about how you work out what hours you would normally work and what you can claim, because that's going to be the interesting bit of detail for me, is seeing, okay, well, how many days are you saying you're now working, and how do how do we prove that? How do we track that and stop ourselves from getting an HMRC challenge at a later date if they don't like it? Like, there's all these details, so we want to see a bit more down there. But on first glance, in theory, what you should be able to do is part-time furlough yourself, and claim a little bit of grant for your lost earnings, but then still be able to do your emergency call outs and this kind of stuff. But we want to see what that detail is before actually coming on, and of course we'll do a video updating you as and when that comes out. Now, on a practical point, employers still must, because it's an employment contract bit, and I'm not a employment law specialist, and I know we've had various people on the YouTube channel and on videos talking about that, and I'm sure we're getting back to do it, but you do need to agree this change in writing with your employees, and of course that's all evidence for HMRC at a later date as well if they wanted to look into it. Other practical points, we are actually presuming there's going to be a change to the claim form, because HMRC are now saying, along with at the minute, it's sort of each employee you have to put in plus their NI number plus various different numbers. Now they're saying that actually they're also going to want to track how many days a week you'd normally work and how many you are working, that kind of thing. So again, you're going to need to work that out. As somebody who has a team of people that provide payroll to lots of employers, I am slightly dreading the amount of work that's going to be with everything that's going on, but it is something, if you're doing it yourself, make sure you're tracking and gathering all that data ready for your claim. Now, again, without getting too technical as well, at the minute you make a claim for a period, and that's changing on the 1st of July. One of the things I'd do if you're interested in that, because ultimately a lot of people watching this are going to have someone else do them, but if you are doing it, just make sure you check in the HMRC guidance notes to read how that's going to work, but they are changing the way that claim period works. So for limited company directors, there'll be another video as we get a bit more details on what you might can and can't do. But at the minute, we presume you're going to be able to flexible furlough, which is great. And if you are trying to bring your team back part-time, this is fantastic, because I think one of the problems was this cliff edge of all or nothing. Every 3 weeks you had to decide. So for now, make sure you get things in writing agreed with any of your employees, and make sure you do things by about the 10th of June. Unfortunately, we won't know any more depth and detail until the 12th, but for now there's some big decisions. You won't be able to add anybody else to the scheme from the 10th. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to click the subscribe button below so you get notified every time we release one of these videos. And that's it. If you do need any help and your accountant can't help you, or you haven't got one, please do drop me a comment or a message on whatever platform you're watching this on, and one of my team would love to have a chat with you. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.